cop gets death penalty. Then her German Shepherd does the unthinkable. Could a loyal German Shepherd really save his owner from death row after she was framed for murder? Prepare for the shocking twist. This incredible dog actually leads his owner's best friend to clues that expose the real killer, a corrupt detective, and the organized crime syndicate behind it all. Like, subscribe, and listen now to hear this unbelievable story of canine loyalty and justice. Order in the court. The judge's gavel cracked sharply, the sound echoing the finality descending upon Harper Calloway. She stood numbly beside her defense attorney, the fluorescent lights of the Crestwood County Courthouse glinting off the undeserved handcuffs binding her wrists. The jury foreman, avoiding her gaze, had just read the verdict. Guilty. First-degree murder. And now, the sentence. Harper Calloway, the judge intoned, his voice devoid of emotion, having been found guilty by a jury of your peers for the murder of Victor Langston, this court hereby sentences you to death by lethal injection, to be carried out by the state at a date to be determined. A collective gasp rippled through the packed courtroom. Harper, a decorated police officer with 15 years on the force, felt the floor tilt beneath her. Death penalty? For a crime she didn't commit? It was surreal, a nightmare unfolding under the harsh lights. Cameras flashed. Reporters scribbled furiously. She saw the smug look on lead investigator Detective Marcus Thorne's face in the prosecution's row. She saw the tears streaming down the face of her best friend, Grayson Hayes, in the gallery before deputies moved to quiet his outraged shout of no. She's innocent. They said she did it. Killed Langston, a wealthy but shady businessman, in a dark alley. Said the security camera footage, though grainy, showed a woman matching her build fleeing the scene. Said her fingerprints were on the unusual dagger found near the body. Said an eyewitness saw blood on her hands. It was a neat package, swiftly delivered, efficiently condemning her. But it was all lies, a terrifyingly effective frame-up she couldn't disprove. As deputies led her away, the weight of the sentence crashing down on her, Harper's last thought wasn't of herself, but of Rex, her loyal German shepherd, waiting faithfully at home. Who would care for him now? The heavy steel door slammed shut behind her, plunging her into the terrifying reality of death row, leaving behind a courtroom buzzing with the shocking sentence and the unanswered question. How could a respected cop fall so far, so fast? Before the arrest, Harper Calloway had been a pillar, albeit a sometimes controversial one, in the Crestwood Police Department. Tough, tenacious, and fiercely dedicated, she had earned commendations for bravery and criticism for her unwillingness to overlook corruption, even minor infractions, within the ranks. She wasn't always popular, but she was respected for her integrity. Her personal life was quiet. Divorced years ago, her main companion was Rex, a highly intelligent German shepherd she'd rescued as a puppy and trained meticulously. Rex was more than a pet. He was her shadow, her confidant, attuned to her every mood. Recently, Harper had been quietly working on a complex investigation, digging into rumored links between local businesses and organized crime, specifically the shadowy syndicate known only as Black Widow, suspected of infiltration and money laundering throughout the region. She'd hit several dead ends, but felt she was getting close, sharing only vague concerns with her oldest friend, Grayson Hayes. Grayson, 38, was Harper's rock, a former Marine recon operative who now ran a private security consultancy. He shared a deep, platonic bond with Harper forged through years of mutual respect and trust. He understood the pressures of her job, the enemies she sometimes made within the department for her rigid adherence to principle. He worried about her digging into organized crime, knowing Crestwood, a mid-sized city grappling with economic decline and political complacency, had a dark underbelly beneath its veneer of civic pride. Detective Marcus Thorne, the lead investigator on the Langston murder, was a smooth operator within the CPD. Publicly seen as a competent, by-the-book detective, Thorne privately harbored resentment towards Harper's reputation for integrity, which often implicitly highlighted the department's less savory aspects. He was ambitious, politically savvy, and known for closing cases quickly. Sometimes rumor had it too quickly. When Harper was implicated in the Langston murder, Thorne took charge with suspicious zeal, steering the investigation directly towards her, dismissing alternative theories. Victor Langston, the victim, was a wealthy businessman with a reputation for cutting corners and associating with questionable figures. His murder, while shocking, wasn't entirely surprising to those who knew the city's criminal landscape. The speed and apparent certainty with which the blame fell on Harper, however, raised red flags for Grayson, even before the guilty verdict. He knew Harper. He knew her moral code. Killing Langston, especially in such a manner, simply didn't fit the woman he knew. The world Grayson inhabited was one where loyalty was paramount, and his loyalty to Harper was absolute. He couldn't shake the feeling that she was being railroaded, sacrificed for something far more sinister simmering beneath Crestwood's surface. The guilty verdict and death sentence weren't just a miscarriage of justice in Grayson Hayes' eyes. They were an impossibility. Harper Calloway, the woman who'd pulled him from a burning vehicle after an IED attack during his last tour, the cop who meticulously documented evidence, the friend who fiercely defended the innocent. A cold-blooded killer? Sentence tutti? It defied all logic, all experience. The inciting incident wasn't the murder itself, but Harper's conviction and sentencing. It was the moment Grayson knew he couldn't stand by, couldn't accept the official narrative. His gut, honed by years of Marine Corps reconnaissance training, where trusting instinct could mean life or death, screamed that Harper was innocent, framed by forces unknown. His initial reaction was a maelstrom of disbelief, rage, and profound grief for his friend. He replayed the trial in his mind. The grainy, inconclusive security footage, the fingerprints on a knife Harper insisted she'd never seen, the shaky eyewitness testimony from a truck driver with a known history of minor offenses. It felt too neat, too convenient. And Detective Thorne's smug satisfaction throughout the trial had been particularly galling. When news reached him that Rex, Harper's beloved German Shepherd, had been taken to the county animal shelter after Harper's transfer to the state penitentiary's death row unit, Grayson acted immediately. He drove to the shelter, the sight of the confused, grieving dog pacing in his kennel solidifying Grayson's resolve. "Come on, boy," Grayson murmured, signing the adoption papers. "We're going home. We got work to do." He wasn't just rescuing Rex. He was preserving the last living link to Harper, taking on a responsibility that felt both practical and deeply symbolic. His initial goal formed with unwavering clarity: prove Harper Calloway's innocence and find the real killer, no matter what it took. He knew the system had failed her. Relying on appeals or official channels seemed futile, especially with Thorne likely obstructing any further investigation. He would have to operate outside the system, use his own skills, follow his own leads. His first tentative steps involved setting up a base of operations in his secure home office, reviewing every detail of the trial transcript, analyzing crime scene photos, searching for the inconsistencies his gut told him were there. He also focused on making Rex comfortable, recognizing the dog's distress, unaware that the loyal German Shepherd held his own intuitive understanding of the situation and would soon become Grayson's most unlikely and crucial investigative partner. Grayson's grief for Harper was channeled into cold, methodical determination. He was on a new mission, perhaps the most important one of his life. Grayson visited Harper on death row, the sterile visiting room a stark contrast to their usual comfortable camaraderie. Harper looked pale, resigned, the fight seemingly drained from her. "It's no use, Gray," she whispered through the thick glass partition. "They built a perfect case." Thorne made sure of it. She maintained her innocence, but seemed convinced her fate was sealed. Seeing her despair only fueled Grayson's determination. Back home, Rex wasn't settling. The usually calm, obedient dog became restless, pacing incessantly, whining at the door, often letting out low, mournful howls in the dead of night. Grayson initially attributed it to grief and confusion, the trauma of losing Harper. But Rex's behavior grew more specific. He repeatedly scratched at the leash hanging by the door, agitated, looking expectantly at Grayson. One evening, succumbing to Rex's persistent whining, Grayson clipped on a leash for a late-night walk. Instead of heading towards their usual park route, Rex pulled hard in a different direction, towards the grittier industrial edge of Crestwood. Intrigued, Grayson let the dog lead. Rex navigated the dark streets with purpose, finally turning down a narrow, garbage-strewn alley several blocks away from where Victor Langston had been murdered. He stopped abruptly near an overflowing dumpster, sniffed intently at the ground, and began digging frantically with his paws, ignoring Grayson's commands to stop. Moments later, Rex pulled back, something pale dangling from his mouth. He dropped it at Grayson's feet. It was a torn, flexible piece of flesh-colored material, smooth and slightly rubbery, synthetic skin. Grayson stared at it, bewildered. What was this? And why was Rex so fixated on it here? He pocketed the strange fragment, a sense of unease prickling his skin. Rex seemed satisfied, allowing Grayson to lead him home, but the incident stuck with Grayson. It felt significant, though he couldn't yet grasp why. He knew he needed help, someone with resources to analyze the material and navigate the complexities of reinvestigating a closed case. He contacted Mia Chun, an old acquaintance and respected investigative journalist, known for her tenacity and willingness to challenge official narratives. He laid out his conviction about Harper's innocence, the flaws in the trial, and the strange discovery Rex had made. Mia, initially skeptical about the dog finding clues angle, was nonetheless intrigued by the potential wrongful conviction of a decorated cop and the inconsistencies Grayson highlighted. She agreed to help, starting by using her resources to get the synthetic skin fragment analyzed by an independent forensic lab, bypassing the potentially compromised CPD lab. The initial complications were daunting. Harper's execution clock was ticking. Grayson faced official stonewalling at every turn when trying to access case files. Mia's inquiries were met with veiled warnings from sources within the city government. And Rex's behavior, while leading to a potential clue, was unpredictable, adding a layer of bizarre uncertainty. The stakes were literally life and death, and Grayson felt like he was fighting a ghost, armed only with his gut feeling, a loyal dog, and a strange piece of synthetic skin. The lab report on the synthetic skin fragment came back, providing the first concrete break and the story's turning point. The material wasn't just synthetic skin. It was identified as a high-grade, custom-blend polymer used almost exclusively in the creation of hyper-realistic prosthetic masks, the kind favored by Hollywood special effects artists, intelligence agencies, and, alarmingly, high-level assassins for disguise purposes. This revelation hit Grayson and Mia like a lightning bolt. It instantly reframed the entire case. The grainy security footage showing a woman resembling Harper fleeing the scene, It could have been someone wearing a mask designed to look like Harper. The fingerprints on the dagger, potentially planted, or the dagger itself, introduced later. The eyewitness, possibly mistaken in the dim light, or coerced, seeing only the disguised figure. Harper hadn't just been framed. She'd been framed by a professional, likely a hired killer, using sophisticated disguise techniques. This changes everything. Mia breathed, staring at the lab report. Who would go to such lengths to frame Harper for Langston's murder? The question hung in the air, heavy with implication. It suggested a conspiracy far deeper and more organized than just corrupt cops covering up a mistake. It pointed towards premeditation, resources, and a powerful motive. Harper's quiet investigation into Black Widow immediately sprang to Grayson's mind. Has she gotten too close? Was Langston's murder orchestrated by Black Widow, with Harper deliberately chosen as the scapegoat to eliminate her and discredit her investigation simultaneously? Fueled by this new theory, Grayson felt an urgent need to revisit the alley where Rex found the mask fragment. Rex found that piece for a reason, Mia, he insisted. Maybe there's more. They returned to the dimly lit, foul-smelling alley that night. As soon as they arrived, Rex, off-leash this time under Grayson's watchful eye, immediately went to the same area near the dumpster where he'd dug before. He sniffed intently, then moved a few feet away, whining softly and pawing at a loose pile of damp, decaying leaves wedged beneath a fire escape. Grayson and Mia carefully cleared the leaves. Underneath, half buried in the grime, was a dark leather glove. It was stiff with dried blood. Using evidence collection techniques Grayson remembered from his Marine training, gloves, Ziploc bag, they secure it carefully. Back at Mia's makeshift investigation hub, her apartment, preliminary, discreet testing arranged through Mia's contacts confirmed the blood type matched Victor Langston. More importantly, microscopic analysis revealed skin cells inside the glove. If they could get DNA, it could identify the wearer, the real killer. This discovery, directly prompted by Rex's actions, was the definitive midpoint. They now possessed physical evidence, strongly suggesting Harper was framed by a disguised killer who had inadvertently left traces behind. Their goal shifted from merely proving Harper's innocence to actively identifying the hitman and, crucially, exposing the organization that hired him, Black Widow, and the corrupt officials, likely including Detective Thorne, who facilitated the frame-up. They knew they were dealing with a dangerous conspiracy, and presenting this new evidence through official channels controlled by Thorne was suicide. They had to find another way, and Harper's execution date loomed ever closer. The discovery of the bloody glove presented both an opportunity and a grave danger. Grayson and Mia knew they had powerful evidence, but Detective Marcus Thorne controlled the official investigation. Handing the glove over to him directly would be tantamount to destroying it. They decided on a calculated risk. Grayson requested a meeting with Thorne, ostensibly to plead Harper's case one last time, perhaps offer some irrelevant information he claimed to have found. During the meeting, Grayson surreptitiously placed a hidden camera. He then presented Thorne with high-quality photographs of the glove and a lab report confirming Langston's blood type, deliberately withholding the glove itself. He documented Thorne's reaction, feigned interest, followed by dismissive remarks about contamination and inadmissibility. Thorne demanded Grayson hand over the alleged glove immediately for official testing. Grayson refused, stating he needed legal counsel first. Thorne became angry, implicitly threatening Grayson with obstruction charges. The recorded meeting provided clear evidence of Thorne's intent to suppress, if not destroy, exculpatory evidence. Meanwhile, The DNA results from the skin cells inside the glove came back from the independent lab Mia used. The profile matched no one in existing law enforcement databases, Cody's AFIS. It belonged to an unknown male, a ghost, likely a professional hitman using a clean identity or one not on file. While not identifying the killer, it definitively proved the prints weren't Harper's and belonged to someone present at the scene with the victim's blood on their hand. Rex, however, wasn't finished. His agitation seemed to fixate on a specific direction whenever Grayson took him out. Trusting the dog's instincts again, Grayson let Rex lead him one night on a long, meandering path that ended outside a dilapidated warehouse in Crestwood's semi-abandoned industrial district. The place looked deserted, but Rex whined persistently at a boarded-up side entrance. Using skills he hadn't employed since his operational days, Grayson conducted a discreet entry later that night. Inside, amidst the dust and decay, he found signs of recent, temporary occupancy in a small back office. Empty takeout containers, discarded cigarette butts, a brand favored by European imports, Mia later noted, and, crucially, a cheap burner phone dropped or forgotten beneath a loose floorboard. Grayson carefully recovered the phone. With help from a tech-savvy contact Mia knew, they managed to bypass the simple lock and recover fragmented, partially deleted text messages. The messages were coded but clearly discussed logistics, package delivered, payment transfers, BW confirms receipt, and, most chillingly, mentioned the cop is contained and final date expedited. Black Widow. Confirmation they framed Harper. Confirmation they were pushing for her execution. The regrouping was intense. They now had proof of a disguise, proof of an unknown male assailant's DNA at the scene, proof of Thorne actively suppressing evidence, and proof, via the burner phone, linking the hit to Black Widow and confirming the urgency surrounding Harper's execution. Their new goal became a race against time. Expose Thorne and the Black Widow connection publicly before Harper was executed, using the combined evidence to force intervention from higher authorities. They needed to bypass the compromised CPD entirely. Knowing they were running out of time, Grayson and Mia decided to escalate publicly, but strategically. Mia wrote an explosive, carefully worded article for an online investigative news platform, outlining the inconsistencies in Harper Calloway's trial, hinting at suppressed evidence, the glove, the mass fragment, described generally without revealing specifics they still held, and raising questions about Detective Thorne's handling of the case. She didn't mention Black Widow or the burner phone yet, holding that back as their trump card. The article caused a localized firestorm. It generated public debate, put pressure on the DA's office, and clearly rattled Detective Thorne and whoever was pulling his strings. Almost immediately, the threats against Grayson and Mia intensified. Grayson found his consultancy firm facing a sudden, aggressive tax audit. Mia received anonymous online threats detailing her daily routine. Both knew they were under surveillance. Simultaneously, the execution date, previously weeks away, was officially moved up by the State Corrections Department, citing completion of the appeals process and scheduling availability. It was now set for less than 72 hours away. The message was clear. Black Widow was accelerating the timeline, intent on silencing Harper permanently before Grayson and Mia could expose the full truth. This was their darkest hour. Public pressure was building, but the official levers of power seemed blocked or compromised. Thorne was doubling down, likely destroying any remaining internal records. Harper, isolated on death row, was losing hope. Grayson felt the crushing weight of the ticking clock. Had they done enough? Was the burner phone evidence, combined with the glove analysis and Thorne's recorded reaction, enough to force a stay of execution. They decided on one last, desperate gamble. They needed irrefutable proof of Thorne's direct confession or complicity, something undeniable that could be released instantly to force the governor's hand. Recalling Thorne's paranoia and the Black Widow connection, Grayson theorized Thorne might need to meet his handler or the hitman again, especially with the increased public scrutiny. Rex provided the final piece. The dog, increasingly agitated since Grayson's visit to the warehouse, began exhibiting frantic behavior whenever they walked near a specific, secluded parking lot behind the police station, a known dead zone for surveillance cameras. Rex would whine, pull towards the lot, his hackles raised. Grayson suspected Rex smelled something familiar, something linked to the trauma of Harper's arrest or the people involved. He decided to trust Rex one last time. On the night before the scheduled execution, less than 24 hours remaining, Grayson set up covert audio and video surveillance overlooking the deserted parking lot. He waited, hidden, with Rex lying silently beside him, the dog's body rigid with tension. Hours passed. Doubt not at Grayson. Had he misread Rex's cues? Was it just a desperate hope? Then, shortly after 2 a.m., a car pulled into the lot, followed by another. Detective Marcus Thorne got out of the first car. From the second emerged a nondescript man whose face matched the profile Mia's tech contact had partially reconstructed from the burner phone's data. The likely Black Widow operative or hitman. Rex let out a low, almost inaudible growl. Grayson hit record. The final confrontation was about to be captured. Under the flickering sodium lights of the deserted parking lot, Grayson's hidden microphone picked up the tense exchange. "This is getting too hot, Thorne," the operative hissed, his voice gravelly. "That reporter, the ex-Marine friend, they're digging too deep. Did you destroy the glove?" "Of course I did," Thorne snapped back, his voice tight with anxiety. "Told them it was lost. But they published that article. People are asking questions." "Questions don't matter if the primary loose end is tied up," the operative said coldly. "The execution proceeds tomorrow as scheduled." Black Widow ensured the final appeal was denied. The date moved. "Once Calloway is silenced, this all blows over. Your payment is confirmed upon her death." "And Langston?" Thorne asked nervously. "Are you sure nothing traces back?" "The Langston hit was clean," the operative interrupted impatiently. "Professional job, perfect frame on the cop thanks to your internal help. She took the fall just like planned. Black Widow always cleans up its messes. Just make sure you hold up your end. No more mistakes." The operative handed Thorne a thick envelope, presumably cash. "Final installment after tomorrow." Grayson felt a surge of triumph mixed with revulsion. He had it. Thorne's confession, the Black Widow link, the confirmation of the frame-up, the conspiracy to ensure Harper's execution, all captured on high-definition audio and video. As the operative drove away and Thorne nervously pocketed the envelope, Grayson knew he had the weapon he needed. He didn't confront Thorne physically. Instead, he immediately transmitted the encrypted recording file to Mia Chun with a single word. "Now." Mia, waiting anxiously, instantly uploaded the unedited recording to the servers of several major news outlets and her own investigative platform, simultaneously emailing it directly to the governor's office, the attorney general, and the FBI's regional director, timestamped just hours before Harper's scheduled execution. Within minutes, the internet exploded. Hashtag Free Harper Calloway, hashtag Corrupt Crestwood PD, hashtag Black Widow Exposed began trending. News alerts lit up phones across the state. The raw audio of a police detective confessing to framing a colleague for murder and conspiring with organized crime was undeniable, irrefutable. The public outcry was instantaneous and overwhelming. The impact was immediate and decisive. Within an hour of the recording going viral, the governor announced an emergency stay of execution for Harper Calloway, pending a full and immediate investigation by state and federal authorities. The FBI, already monitoring based on Mia's earlier reports, descended on Crestwood with force. Detective Marcus Thorne was arrested before dawn, caught completely off guard by the speed of the exposure. His recorded confession, coupled with the previously compiled evidence, the mass fragment analysis, the glove report, the burner phone data, the accountant's affidavit equivalent source through Mia's digging earlier for financial context, sealed his fate. He quickly implicated other officers and city officials tied to the Black Widow protection racket in Crestwood. The operative Thorne met was identified and apprehended trying to flee the state. Harper Calloway walked out of the state penitentiary days later, exonerated, cleared of all charges, collapsing into the waiting arms of Grayson Hayes and the ecstatic barking of Rex. The reunion was tearful, overwhelming, a hard-won victory, snatched from the jaws of imminent death. The investigation into Crestwood PD and the Black Widow Syndicate continued for months, resulting in numerous arrests and convictions, shaking the city to its core, but ultimately purging much of the corruption. Harper, though bearing the deep psychological scars of her ordeal, declined reinstatement to the force, choosing instead to work alongside Grayson and Mia. Together, they established a nonprofit foundation dedicated to fighting wrongful convictions and supporting victims of police corruption, funded initially by a settlement Harper received from the city. Rex became a local legend, the German shepherd whose incredible loyalty and instincts helped unravel a conspiracy and save his owner's life. He remained faithfully by Harper's side, a furry symbol of hope and resilience. Grayson and Mia continued their respective work, their bond as allies forged in the fight for justice. Standing on a hill overlooking Crestwood one evening, watching the sunset paint the sky, Harper knelt beside Rex, burying her face in his thick fur. "You never gave up on me, did you, boy?" she whispered. "You knew all along." Rex licked her face, his tail thumping contentedly. They had faced the darkness together, human and canine, and emerged into the light, forever bound by an unthinkable ordeal and the extraordinary loyalty that had ultimately saved them both.